it.
Welcome to Wage Cucking with Jmo.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Wage Cucking with Jmo. Today we have a very special guest, the young prince, Gajesh. Gajesh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jmo. How's it going?
Before we get started, I just wanted to say that there are very few people in crypto as young and as talented as you. Like the only one I can think of from the past cycle is a friend of ours, Romano, who I think he got into crypto like around when he was like 14 or 15 years old. He developed his own. He was the lead developer for his own chain at 17 years old.
Yeah.
But other than that, I know crypto is a bit of a younger generation type thing, but it's good to have someone like you who has risen the ranks in crypto very quickly at such a young age. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your backstory, how you got into crypto, especially on the development side, and then I guess a little bit about like your journey today.
Definitely awesome. Yeah, I started back back coding when I was 7. I got into this, like I used to play a lot of games. We had like this like Samsung tablet back then, and like I used to like download games like whenever we have internet. So then like I started to play a lot of games, and later like there was this boot camp which was happening near where I lived. So I went there, like got to know about this thing called Scratch, built some games, then finally thought like let's like Scratch is like just like a drag and drop programming language. So it's like not very fancy like C or any other programming language generally. So I started learning C later. So I got in like a institution nearby, like did like a 2-month course in C and C++. Learned both of them.
When you were how old?
C, I think like 8, and Scratch when I was 7.
Oh wow!
See you when you're 8. Okay, let's keep going.
And was this all self-taught? Like,
No. So I like Scratch was somewhat self-taught and like mix of YouTube. Like C was I went to a institution like a coaching institution, and they basically taught it. Yeah.
Keep going.
So yeah, after learning C++, I started to look around web development, built some websites, then got into robotics. I hopped around different like industries all around, like trying to find like an edge somewhere. So I did robotics, then I think journal like back in development, and I think hacking for some time. Then I hacked into the teacher who was teaching me, and I hacked into her Gmail, and then I just got banned from like hacking in general because it was too it was like not very ethical enough. So yeah, basically then later I finally like COVID happened, and I got like the full freedom of like everything. I didn't have school or anything. Like the world doesn't know what's happening tomorrow. And there's like lockdown everywhere. You're stuck in your computer all day, and that was like the best time for me because I had obviously I had a lot of time. So I started to do like multiple things. I started to do data science and like a couple of things, but the main thing which I started was like I started creating videos again. So and like looking into like SEO and like digital marketing like generally, and then like grew my channel from about like 1,000 subscribers to like I think right now 18,000 subscribers, and about like 1 million views in like just like a year. So yeah, that was like great start. And then finally in and during that time I started to earn money finally. So and like after that I got into this like webinar on Bitcoin, like basically Bitcoin blockchain, and there I earned like $20 of blockchain of Bitcoin, and that is like so amazing for me because I had heard of Bitcoin in 2018 or 17, and like during that time like my parents came from like they only had like understanding of like stocks and stuff, and like during that time Bitcoin was around 15 lakh Indian rupees, and that was like really unaffordable to like just buy that uh buy that buy Bitcoin. So I didn't look into it then, but after I got to know there's like fractionalization, it was like so amazing because now I have the freedom to like get like payments for like anything and like everything. So I started to look around more blockchains, finally found Ethereum, and then I discovered like DeFi and apps, like which is like much better version of fintech. I wanted to get in fintech for a long time, but the problem was I was underage and I couldn't like open a bank account, even like get payments for anything. Like it's such a hassle. So after getting into Ethereum, I learned like Solidity and like smart contract development, did freelancing for like about 3-4 months. Like I started on Fiverr, then like they banned me, then I started to advertise on YouTube, and like I got some clients, I did well, and then I finally got bored. So I built like a experiment project, which is basically like a yield farm, yield aggregator. Like it was like mix of like everything which was hyped up during that cycle, and that got about like $7 million of TVL at peak, and this was I think 2021 May. And yeah, after some time, like the fee started to like not generate, the fee stopped generating. It was very loss making, so I just had to shut it down in December. And just for the context, I didn't raise any funds for this. Hence, like uh in about I think in December I built like another project which is basically like cross-chain yield aggregator, where like it found the best yield like from any chain, and like farmed out there, and like raised $1 million for that, like from different investors. And the funny thing was like I tried to raise like a 300K round. Before that, I raised it properly like from 5 angels in I think November, or so I think it was October, or yeah, somewhere around that. And like that time it was very hard because like I did like the pitching and everything online, so like people didn't really know that I was like 14, and like they didn't believe it. But later, like in 2022, I went to Crypto Bahamas, which is I think like nearly like largest crypto conference till now, because like it was like uh
It
it
was
was
like the
like
FTX one, right? Like I think
yeah, it was
FTX
the
was
FTX
sponsoring it.
one,
Yeah.
and like everyone, like the old president, the prime minister of UK, like many people came, uh, and like that was like everyone and every big VC in crypto was there. So I started like pitching there, and like and I wasn't really even pitching. I was just like introducing my project, and like meanwhile I just like raised like $1 million, like got commitments for $1 million, and like within that week. And later like the in August it got acquired, and I had to shut down the protocol. Later in September I joined FTX Ventures. After FTX went down in November, I left it and joined uh, and like started hacking around and building stuff. And now and like last month, actually this month, I joined EigenLayer. And meantime I was also part of Solana Labs. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you gained quite a bit of notoriety. I want to say this is like maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and maybe a little less than that, because you were like one of the youngest developers that was developing on Solana. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people LARP on Twitter or on the internet and pretend that they're like a 14-year-old developer, you know, but like when you show up to a conference and you're actually like 14 years old and you're developing protocols that are being used by like thousands of people that have millions of dollars of TVL. It is quite impressive. So you want to talk a little bit about your experience developing on Solana, specifically when you were at FTX, and basically your general thoughts on the current state of Solana. I know Solana has had quite a few ups and downs in the past few years. A lot of it is due to FTX. Solana and FTX were tied basically hand in hand. Like a lot of the projects were funded by Sam or by FTX Ventures. And after the FTX fallout, the Solana price, at least the token price, went down quite a bit. But it seems like the ecosystem at least has responded in a very good way, in terms of like all the protocols being developed now are like independently funded, or at least funded outside of FTX Ventures or like the previous FTX Ventures, and there seems to be a resurgence in the activity in the community. So yeah, just give me your general thoughts on like the whole Solana ecosystem from the developer side.
Definitely, yeah. I started off like building on Solana in 2021. I just like late 2021, like early 2021. I was still learning it. Later, they introduced this framework called Anchor, which was built by Serum. Yeah, I built like about like 75 programs, which were, I think not 75, sorry, 35 or 40 programs on Solana, which are there on Ethereum, but not on Solana. There I got like most of the exposure that hey, I'm with the Solana kid. Yeah, and like I built like stuff around that and like did internship at Solana Labs and all. And also worked at this. So while I was at FTX Ventures, I worked with the portfolio company Backpack, which was a wallet on Solana. Yeah, and I think like if you compare like pre FTX and post FTX, before FTX, I think like raising funds was like very easy on Solana, because Alameda was like on everyone's cap table.
Yep.
And
Just give Uncle Sam a call and get
like,
some money.
yeah, sort of, yes. And like after FTX, like people had to like find like anything could be funded before that. Like after some time, like only like proper projects were getting funded. Um, yeah, I think like, and even I think after the collapse, like some projects got washed out because like they had the funds in FTX.
Mhm.
And then they lost it. They lost like most of their treasury and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I know quite a few projects like that,
yeah,
which were funded by FTX and decided to
yeah,
keep their basically a majority of their entire runway on FTX, either
yeah,
just as using like the FTX yield or something like that, or
And
yeah.
and
essentially using it as a bank account.
Sort
my
of, yeah.
understanding is that that was encouraged by FTX. If you raise money from them, that they
Or
would
or Alameda, right? Like Alameda.
Sorry, that Alameda would like yield farm your treasury, right?
Yeah, exactly. They would basically say like, we invested in you, but like if you don't know what to do with the money, or like if you don't need it for immediate expenses, we can take your treasury and yield farm it or trade with it, and then you'll get some sort of return, which is, I mean, I guess if you're a founder in the space, and you trust Alameda or you trust FTX, I mean, after all that they were funding you, then it seems like a pretty reasonable offer. But like I feel like a lot of projects went down this route, got pretty screwed because they had like basically their entire balance or a majority of their balance besides like day-to-day operating expenses on FTX.
I guess I'm not sure about like the treasury part. Sorry, the yield part.
Mhm.
But there was like the 5% yield on FTX.com, which I think FTX app, which you could earn like just keeping your funds there. Uh, but I think I think like this incident also happened with 3AC, where they like asked their investment company, like their portfolio companies, to give them money in exchange for yield. But other than that, like I think like after like if you see Solana, like year to date, about like I think it was 100% uptime compared to last year. They have like the second largest developer base,
Mhm.
like after EVM, like as per Electric Capital's developer report. There are like many like interesting protocols like Trip House, which are minting like millions of NFTs like every week.
Mhm.
And like they are just paying like 2K in fees like every year, every month, which is like pretty low compared to like Ethereum or like any other EVM chain. Yeah. And even like developer tooling is increasing, and like Foundation is giving out like grants to certain projects, and like I guess like DeFi is like the only thing which isn't happening like really uh in a large scale of Solana. Like there are like few awesome protocols like G2 and Margin 5, which are
Yep.
we're doing some cool things.
Yeah,
Um,
we had Ansem on for the last podcast, and he
oh,
actually
awesome.
said like Andreas asked him at the end of the episode, well, what Solana applications right now he was bullish on, or he thought we should get people from the for the podcast, sorry, and yeah, he listed exactly those two. So
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting, and I don't think either of those are FTX or Alameda funded. They launched post the whole FTX blow up, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I think no, I guess they were there before. Like they had like existence before that, but most of that growth was after
Mhm.
FTX. Yeah. But like I think like FTX's liquidation is pretty bad on their like general like token. Like I think like about 440 million is like unlocked right now, which the entity which the estate can sell anytime.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's going
And
to be a mess when
yeah,
they start
it's
like selling on the market, or I mean, I don't know what's going on
totally.
there. It feels like they're just racking up legal fees right now and paying
Yeah,
themselves. But
yeah, I
once they start
guess.
mobilizing those funds, who knows what's going to happen?
That's true. I think like Galaxy is doing the liquidation part
Mhm.
for most of the assets. I'm not sure why they haven't like liquidated yet, but like the market is acting like pretty inverse to the news. Like people are just buying up the news like similar to like what I'm not sure, like a couple of months back, like government transferred like 10,000 BTC or something to
Yeah.
sell,
Uh-huh.
and like the market just shot up and they got dumped on it. So like the market is pretty bad on like pricing out like tokens right now.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit
Concentrating
about.
the government.
I wanted I wanted to talk a little bit about like your progression as a developer. So like you initially learned Solidity, right, to program on Ethereum and EVM like during DeFi summer. Did you
Yeah.
teach yourself that, or like did you go to school to learn that skill?
Oh yeah, so like after like about so I did like C plus and like Java like in institutions, but later like other things I like once you learn like the top like the hard programming languages, it's like much easier to like adapt the other ones,
Hmm.
in my opinion, like generally. So Solidity and like all the smart contract stuff, that was like totally self-taught, and I don't think anyone like really did like courses and stuff. There were like some courses on Udemy I watched, but I'm not sure if it's considered self-taught or
Hmm.
uh yeah,
And
yeah,
then
I guess like most.
I guess the same with Rust when you started developing on Solana.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was totally self-taught, yes.
Because I was
Oh,
gonna, yeah, I was gonna
sorry, go
ask
ahead.
about the Rust part because
Yeah,
even if you know C and C++, I mean that's not gonna help you so much
yeah,
if you're getting into epic battles with the Rust borrow checker, right? Especially starting
yeah,
out, it's pretty tough. But
yeah,
the way I understand it is when you write Solana codes, that's not really a problem because
yeah, yeah, totally.
you don't have these complicated memory structures because the smart
Yeah,
contract is very simple. But
totally.
what was it like to go from Solidity to
Yeah.
Rust, and but especially to um I mean it's completely different. Solana has you can explain how it works for anybody listening, but the whole with the programs and
Yeah.
just everything, what was that like?
Yeah, I think like going from Solana to like Ethereum to Solana was pretty hard. And also like most of Solana's like development like in Rust, it's like not really Rust. Like it's like both are pretty different generally when you write them. So I guess like when I started it was pretty hard, but later like I got a grasp of it. But like composability is like serious problem like in Solana smart contracts, because like generally if you want to like swap like generally if you want to land something, so for example I'm building a protocol which is farming the yield from another protocol and like recompounding it, like that is like such a big hassle on chain because first
It's
of
like
all
it's an like an auto compounder type thing where like
yeah, yeah.
it
If you
sells
are
the
building,
yield.
so like that's what I did, right? So so like the main so the second the company I built, like it was basically how it worked was like basically like a person get deposit money from any chain, but and like this like all this money is later like aggregated to Solana, and from Solana we shoot it to like the best yield, like calculating it like wherever there's a best yield, and all of this was like powered by a wormhole. uh but like while building this was like such a big problem, because composability is a problem, like because you have to like provide like accounts like from like the first level. uh so for example, I'm compounding, for example, so I need to provide the accounts for the lending protocol, then the swaps, and like all of them, and that is such a, that is the problem with like stateless systems, compared to what Ethereum is, the state Ethereum is a state based smart contracts.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like it seems like when you jumped into DeFi, or like during the
Yeah.
the DeFi summer 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. I feel like that landscape was quite different than what we have today.
Yeah.
Most of the action was on Ethereum. There weren't really Ethereum layer 2s. There were some like there were some alternate layer 1s, but
Yeah.
the layer 1 landscape was substantially different than it is today. It seems like you were a little bit ahead of your time, and you were building stuff such as like yield aggregators, or like you essentially built a protocol that would find the best yield across all chains. And I feel like the whole DeFi ecosystem has evolved to a point where everything, at least in the near future, is going to be either cross-chain or multi-chain. You're like there's going to be like seamless transactions. You could possibly borrow on one chain while having collateral or another chain. You could execute a DEX swap on one chain and have it execute, or have it route to another chain if the routing makes sense and you get a better price. I feel like that's all in the future. The main issues I see right now is that there isn't a very good solution for cross-chain bridging right now. If you look at like the major bridge hacks, or the major hacks in crypto, like a majority of them are bridges. And if you look at the fundamentals of how bridging works, like a lot of them are really bad. I mean, I feel like people use bridges without understanding like how, if they're decentralized, if they're centralized, what points of failure they have. And then you look at something like recently the multi-coin hack. You find out that like there was a single point of failure with the CEO, where like he basically held the keys to the entire protocol, and if he's thrown away in jail or something like that, like hundreds of millions of dollars somehow can get either locked or stolen, that essentially were bridged from chain to chain. So you have any thoughts on currently I guess the whole DeFi ecosystem in terms of all the chains, and if there's a good long-term solution that we should adopt for bridging?
Sure. Yep. I think like, I'll just correct the first part. So I joined like DeFi when I think like the L2 move was going on. So like when people were farming on like BSC and Polygon, like the experiment project I built, that was on Polygon, and then like we had Avalanche stuff. So I was like part of that. Like unfortunately, I wasn't part of like the good part of like farming like Yearn or like protocols like that. But getting back to bridging, I think like slowly like bridges will get more decentralized. Right now, like I think not all of them are very decentralized, but like Layer Zero and Wormhole are doing pretty good. I think Layer Zero has like Layer Zero is probably the largest bridge right now. And like Wormhole is like used for like by default assets for Solana and Sui and Aptos, I guess. So yeah, in future, I guess like what I see is like every protocol is going to be like interoperable. From for example, there is like a lending protocol, like you can borrow from like any chain, and like there's like liquidities and fragmented, like there's one liquidity and you can like trade on that. And like it's like much easier in terms of like user experience. uh compared to now, where like the user needs to like manually bridge to like base if they want to do some like shitcoin aping or like doing something like that. Like you can just put money on I think Sushi has that actually. Like I think on X Sushi you can like swap like from one chain to another.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You are
Yeah.
you did work at Polygon, or you just use Polygon as a chain?
Oh yeah, I just used like Polygon as a chain to deploy the stuff because like I think my protocol was the second like farm on Polygon, like proper farm on Polygon.
So for me,
Yeah.
Polygon was one of my first experiences into bridging. I think like the two chains
Mm,
I used for bridging initially
yeah.
were Binance Smart Chain and Polygon, and
Yeah.
I had a bit of rude awakening as to figuring
Yeah.
out how the Polygon bridge actually worked.
Yeah. Three
It's
people.
apparently three people sitting in a room that
Yeah.
that they handle all your money, and
Nowadays, not
I
three
found this
people
out.
in the same room, different countries.
I found this out because I had money stuck on the Polygon bridge because one of the guys was out at lunch break or something. So I had to wait a few hours for my money to arrive. And I thought about it and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is the best bridge design to run like a chain with like billions of dollars of TVL. But yeah, continuing on with the whole cross chain stuff.
Yeah.
From a developer's perspective, are there any new innovations in decentralized finance or new protocols aside from like the basic, like automated market maker, the borrow lend platforms that you're especially bullish or excited about that
Yeah.
may gain a decent amount of market share or at least a larger user base for people using them?
Uh, I'll start off with shilling my bags first.
Yeah.
I guess EigenLayer is going to be like I'm super bullish on EigenLayer, very biased. I work there. But other than that, I think like there are a couple of like cool protocols. I think like right now, there's there's this protocol called Waymount, which is like pretty much like next generation self custody uh wallet. Basically, it is founded by Jay Bhaurani, who built like Rari Capital, which got like $1 billion in TVL during his leadership, and like also built a wallet before, so he definitely has experience on that. Like one thing they are building like really interesting is called Smart Actions, where like basically uh you can program like every move on chain. So like um in case like Aave is going to go bankrupt in some time, or like sorry, if Aave is going to go like insolvent, like you can like design like smart actions, like or there are like pre-designed smart actions where you can withdraw sorry yeah, you can basically withdraw like money in that case. Like there are some more examples where like in case yes, I have like a list of these things. So yeah, I think it is pretty cool what they're building. And other than that, what else is interesting happening in DeFi? Cross chain is going good. I think on a developer side, I think Layer Zero is the best like bridge to like integrate and like
Mhm.
start executing. Um, and like Radiant is pretty cool where you can like borrow from different chains easily. Um, what else is
Yeah, I
interesting?
feel like Layer Zero has been getting a lot of hype, but they're getting a lot of hype for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
The airdrop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I feel like people don't really care about
yeah,
the fundamental use case that it brings to decentralized finance. It opens the door for like really cool things to
yeah,
happen, but just by having a way for chains to communicate with each other, basically, and then it sort of opens the doors for like really cool protocols. Like I feel like some of
totally.
them are already coming out, or is stuff like Tapioca, stuff like Radiant.
Yeah,
Where like you have a position on one chain, you can
yeah,
use that position like as collateral, as like a um if you need liquidity on another chain, you don't have to go through like a centralized bridge where like your funds are in custody. It just says like the collateral is in use in this chain, therefore you can have these assets on another chain. And I feel like it's just a sort of the tip of the iceberg, because once you have like this fundamental like infrastructure where you can just like build new protocols that do new things, it's sort of left to the imagination of the developer, right? Like a lot of the protocols I think we'll use in a few years haven't really even been thought of today. You know, like if they come out, people will be like, wow, that's an amazing idea. Well, this is awesome. Why haven't we had this within DeFi? But you know, I guess stuff like this takes quite some time to brainstorm and develop.
There are also like I must just like there are also like decentralized perps like GMX and polynomial and Quenta, which are coming up. Like I think like after like FTX and like Celsius and all these like centralized custodial collapses, like people are moving a lot of their funds to like decentralized platforms. And I think like I personally use polynomial a lot for trading. Like before, like my 100% of my trades were like on like Binance or FTX mostly. Yeah.
But
Also, LSDs are cool right now. But and like few months back, like LSDs were doing like pretty good, but there was like landing protocols and like interest-free like stable coins, and there was also this like no loss lottery where you could like basically like use Lido's yield to like distribute money to like three random people. There's also like RWAs, but right now they're hyping up a lot. Like every chain you see is like if you came to token 2049, Andreas, you were there. So like everyone you see, they want to build a RWA. Like it is so funny. Like and like RWAs are cool, but I think like in my opinion, like I would go long on RWAs when like there are like KYC free RWAs. Like I could opt into a treasury without the government knowing who I am, or like the platform knowing who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a big concern in the future, like where at least I mean, I don't think it's even limited to that, but even like if you want to use something like Uniswap, like it's possible in the future Uniswap will have like region-based front ends where they force you to KYC, or they sort of censor the tokens. Like for example, if there's like a synthetic US dollar product that, you know, works well, but it isn't issued by the US government, that they're obviously not going to like that. And that if they have access to censorship on chain, they're definitely going to limit the number of people, at least like within their jurisdiction, to be able to trade that. So yeah, I think it's important to develop at least protocols that are mostly censorship resistant. I mean, like they don't have to be completely censorship resistant, but like I think it's a bad path to go down, where like you want to use decentralized finance and it's like a forced KYC, you know, like centralized entities, stuff like that. It sort of defeats the purpose of the general idea or the general thesis behind why decentralized finance is necessary to combat the traditional financial system.
Totally.
For sure. I bought the RWAs.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot when we were doing this, but I mean, you've seen it. You've seen a cycle or two now, Gajesh. So
yeah,
because I was thinking about the RWAs. Yeah, I was thinking about the RWAs, especially U.S. Treasuries.
Yeah.
And we were joking on the last show that you know how crypto is. So if you get U.S. Treasuries, then within a couple of months it's going to be Canadian, right? And then it's going to be then it's going to be French, and then it's going to be Spanish, and then it's going to be Argentinian.
Yeah.
Like, because this is how it works, because people will chase the high yield with more risk over time. This is how people work.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of seeing already that I think there's going to be some kind of a bull market in increasingly worse bonds, higher and higher risk.
Yeah.
Don't stop at Argentina. Start issuing bonds from corporations that are terrible. And people are going to aggregate this and put leverage on it.
Yes.
On chain.
Yeah, you can
and I think
farm
that's
your
gonna go
US
crazy.
treasury.
So if you want to speculate, like it was hard in the last cycle to, I mean, you could, when you were yield farming, it gets ridiculous, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
like pancake bunny swap and you're just sitting there
Yeah.
pressing buttons.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what so how far do you think in the next cycle all this stuff can go? Like what kind of stuff are we going to see? Like how crazy is it going to get low? What's the craziest thing you can think of?
Craziest thing I can think of. That was, I think, like one of the craziest ideas I was joking around during the conference. But other than that, I think like this whole stack of things like would be interesting. Uh, Other than that, sorry, I think like back to the next cycle thing. Uh, People are still bad at pricing tokens and the proper market. Uh, it happened last last cycle before that. Just the difference is like every time you see it, there are like new steps towards it. So like when we started yield farming, it was just like you deposit a token, you earn some random yield, and that token is back to $100. Or like, 100 million dollars of market cap. But maybe in uh maybe and like if you see like another like 6 months after that, there was like step to earn where you just like buy a shoe, a digital shoe, and you walk around and like you just earn the token, and that token is up for some reason, and there's like no utility of the token. You can't get the real shoe anyways. But like in future, like may like yield farming will be like very complicated, but there will be a lot of yield that people will be just aping into it. Even like right now, friend tech is like pretty much like literally a Ponzi, but people are still aping into it. So I guess in the next cycle, something which is not going to change is people pricing everything wrong. But something which can change is maybe like the amount of opportunities which are gonna come up, because now like if you see the person who has experienced the previous cycle, they know where you when you need to like exit properly, or like at least like uh where like something is going bad. Like the person basically has like the knowledge of like when to get in and get out of things, like how much to put in, like they have like the experience of losing money. Yeah, so opportunities will go down a lot. And yeah.
I wanted to ask about the so you built like the previous cycle DeFi summer, you built
Yeah.
basically a yield
Yeah.
aggregator and then something
Yeah.
that would find you the best yield.
Yeah.
I feel like that in and of itself is, I guess the yield aggregator is simple because like in general you have a protocol that issues a governance token, so the like the aggregator would just you know, like
Yeah.
for people, it was essentially save gas fees by bundling all their
Yeah.
positions together and then selling the emissions token and adding it back to the LP. But when you're looking at, you know, like the optimal farms or the optimal yield,
Yeah.
how do you put in consideration for stuff like, you know, like impermanent loss or safety of the protocol and stuff like that, that it isn't exactly, you know, you're not really able to calculate that mathematically?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Or the depreciation of the pool 2 tokens.
Yeah. That's a good question. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. So the protocol I built, like that was like one thing which is different about it. I think this may get out of the question, uh, but basically you didn't actually own like the governance token, so we never did a token. But basically how it worked was like you got a yield, and then you got a yield in USDC instead of or like we did like a mainnet beta on Avalanche, which got about like 200K of TVL. Uh, and like basically like people earned AVAX instead of like a governance token, and that generated like a lot of like psychological hack where like people are earning something like stronger asset which has liquidity. But basically in the background what worked was like uh the yield wasn't really compounded. We just like sold it and like converted it into AVAX and gave it to people.
I see. So
Uh,
it wasn't added to the LP. You just paid it out.
yeah, we just paid it out. Like
I see.
yeah, in somewhat way. Like I guess we designed like multiple models for this. Where like in some cases like only 50% will be given out and 50% will be compounded back in.
Mhm.
Something around that. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I feel like at the time it was pretty difficult to figure out what was optimal.
Yeah.
For example, like I remember doing a lot of farming on Binance Smart Chain, where
Yeah.
like the APYs were insane, but then also like you look at the UI and you think to yourself, this is probably a scam, but like
Yeah.
if I'm in here for an hour, I make $10,000. So
Yeah.
is it worth it? Can I get out quick enough? Uh, I guess those days are a bit behind us, where you can't really fork Uniswap or SushiSwap, like print your own token, and then somehow the
Yeah.
token gets like $1 million valuations. And it
Exactly.
makes sense now. Like more protocols, like I know you bring up GMX, but like one of the interesting things about GMX is like if you're an LP provider, in like GLP or even their version 2, they essentially pay you out in the Ethereum fees. So there isn't
Mm.
really like a shit coin, a governance token that
Yeah.
needs to be sold anymore. And like
Exactly.
it sounds like it's pretty similar to what you're doing on Avalanche, because like I think the
Yeah.
biggest problem with yield farming is people that have large positions in these protocols,
Yeah.
they end up generating quite a bit of the protocol token. But like
Yeah.
in reality, like the life of a lot of these protocols is like maybe like a third to a fourth of an entire cycle. Like
Exactly.
the biggest farms at the beginning of DeFi summer were completely dead by like the middle of DeFi summer, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to at least develop protocols or develop aggregators that allow you to generate real assets rather than just like sort of governance tokens or tokens printed
Mm.
out of printed out of whatever for the protocol, which I feel like a lot of people, when they get into decentralized finance, they sort of invest or at least that they LP into the pools that have like the highest return, like the highest number on the screen, the highest APY number. But that's
Yeah.
obviously in consideration of not just protocol fees, but like what you're getting paid outside of the protocol fees. But like the
Exactly.
assets you're getting paid outside the protocol fees like aren't going to be worth the same amount. But like the moment you put some assets in as LP, the
Yeah.
the yield goes down in theory, because like the assets you're generating out of it
Mm.
are
Yeah.
100% of the time are going to be going down throughout the lifespan of your LP. But like I feel like one thing that I'm pretty happy about in DeFi is we've moved away from that a bit, where a lot of the protocols now are like, for example, if you have a like borrow lend platform, a
Yeah.
lot of the yield is what they call real yield, right? Like you're getting paid the fees that the other people that require your LP, require your services are paying. And even though the yields are down a lot, it seems like it's a much more long-term sustainable thing, right? Because if there's demand for the LPing, then the fees will be generated from LPing. If there's no demand from LPing, then like there won't be any fees and it won't be as attractive to LP. People will pull their liquidity. But it like in the previous cycle, it's just like if there's no demand, we'll just print more of the token, and now there's going to be like increased liquidity because we're printing more of the token and we're giving it out.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So moving on, actually, I guess this goes into the category of cross chain. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Ethereum, especially the Ethereum layer 2s that are popping up, and like the
Yeah.
whole layer 2 thesis. And I feel like
Mm.
this is sort of a recurring topic that we talk about here. But I wanted to hear your takes on like how Ethereum right now is scaling. The whole layer 2 thesis is, are we
Mm.
going to have a winner within all the layer 2s, or they're just going to be, orthogonal layer 2s that operate independently and each have their own thing going? Is there enough I guess, is there enough of a user base in order to support all these layer twos? Because it seems like there are quite a few popping out, and a lot of them sort of have like the same technology, like the same optimistic rollup, but they do a little bit something a little bit different, or they have like a sort of different dApps. But essentially, like most protocols, at least in my opinion, like for layer twos, most of the protocols, even though they have like different names, even if they have like different teams, they all essentially do the same thing. Like you go to any layer two, and you have basically like the same like 6 or 7 dApps that have the biggest share that do exactly the same thing that they do on other chains.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like people building L2s are really, really awesome. Uh, like one thing I think is like basically like the last cycle, like people were like the future is multi-chain, but during that time, like chains were basically a new L1s.
Mhm.
Right now, I think the whole thesis will just change where like instead of L1s, it would be L2s, and like L2s will be fighting with each other, finding like trying to get the best like trying to get the best growth like by providing some different incentive.
Mhm.
Um, and during like I went to like Stanford blockchain conference, which was like pretty interesting because it was mostly like L2s and like different like academics like explaining like the best ways to scale the blockchain. And like some things which are popping up like new and in the space. And a lot of jargons. So what I think about L2s, I don't have any major thoughts, but people building L2s are like that is awesome because end of the day, like Ethereum is gonna get benefited out of the whole thing. Like and even like some L2s are now sorry now even like L1s are moving to L2s like Celo and
Yeah.
Astra if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and like everyone's building like every like big companies building L2, like Coinbase building L2, Bybit is building L2.
Mhm.
There's consensus building the L2, and like Base is generating like millions in fees right now. So like that is also pretty interesting.
And yeah, don't you think because when the L2s came out, I was one
Yeah,
of these people, by the way. I was a bit negative. I don't know why. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, who's gonna bridge to Arbitrum to save like $5 on fees, and then you buy the thing, and I got to bridge
yeah,
back and all this. But I mean, now we're seeing. I've been working a lot. I've been using Layer Zero a lot, like in the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
Dude, the user doesn't have to do anything. You don't
yeah,
have to. There's no switching. There's no doing anything because you can literally sit in your Ethereum wallet. You can initiate a transaction that gets bridged over to Arbitrum, performs a task there, and bridges itself back to Ethereum. So
yeah,
you never switch your network. You didn't do anything. It just you have this infinite composability. So
yeah,
the whole like who's gonna bother doing that argument if we have good
yeah,
messaging cross chain is
yeah,
out, right?
yeah. True.
Yeah, I feel like the end goal of all these protocols is to make the user experience as easy, as seamless as possible.
Mm.
Like the
Yeah,
barrier to entry to figure out, like, at least in the past, of how to bridge stuff, how to, like, even like we talk about Solana, like it's a lot simpler if you're bridging EVM to EVM chain, but like if figuring out how to, if you come from like an Ethereum background and you want to do like some DeFi on Solana, like the barrier to entry is pretty high, right? Like you have to figure out like this new non-EVM compatible chain, how it works,
yeah,
how to move assets back and forth. I mean, like at least from my experience, a lot of people just use FTX as a bridge, right? Like you just deposit
yeah.
withdraw
True. That is
from
true. Yeah,
FTX, but obviously that didn't work out too well. So I think like DeFi in the future, like with all these L2s, for the end user at least, there's going to be a time where like the user interface or the user experience is going to be so seamless where like you
yeah,
don't even, like Andreas said, you don't even need to know that you're using the L2. Like the L2 is just used as like a or the L1 will be used as like a solid settlement layer, but like as you use your wallet, like you won't know that you're bridging to an L2 and then bridging back, or maybe not even bridging like we think of it today, just like relaying a message back from the L1 to the L2 and back to the L1. So yeah, it's a very interesting future I think we have in DeFi.
That's true. Totally.
So before we let you go today, I wanted to give you the floor and talk a little bit about the project you're working at now, EigenLayer.
Yeah.
Can you give like us a brief synopsis of what they're looking to do and why you think it's important for the future of Ethereum?
Sure, definitely. Yeah. So EigenLayer is basically like a shared security protocol where for example now like a bridge needs like operators, then they don't need to like build their own network or find like validators and stuff. They just can like use our like operators uh to build to get them like proper like trusted validators like with like stake in hand.
Mhm.
So EigenLayer has three parts: restakers, operators, and services. Services are the protocols like oracles, like bridges, L2s, like infinite possibilities. But and then there are operators which are the ones like running validators or publishing data or things like that. And then there are restakers which stake the Ethereum and like delegate to like uh certain operators who then have like a stake in hand. So like in case like a person like does something malicious and like publishes the wrong oracle data, then like, he's going to get slashed, and like all that Ethereum which is restaked is going to be used, like that is going to be frozen. uh yep. That's
I
like
think
a
I
really
almost
brief.
I think I almost understood that. So
Yeah.
like no, because like the issue if you're running a bridge,
Yeah.
unless you have three guys in the basement, and
Yeah.
the bridge doesn't run when you're out for lunch, then yeah, I guess the problem is like you're somebody is running a program that performs these actions. They're part of almost like a multisig. And how do you find these participants? How do you validate the work, and how do you punish those who do not perform the correct task? So is it like a framework for making these kind of services? You could make like an oracle, you could make a prediction market maybe.
Yeah, there
Am I
there are like
understanding?
infinite possibilities. Yeah, like anything which requires like for example trust. So um trust are like generally like people who can like run these things.
Okay, very cool.
It seems like we were talking about layer 0 and people wanting to get into layer 0 for the airdrop. It seems like there's quite a bit of demand for the EigenLayer airdrop, even though I'm not even sure if they're going to airdrop anything. But I think
No comments.
they yeah, we don't want to get you in trouble there. But I actually find it pretty interesting that I believe like in the past, like I want to say like 2 to 4 months that they opened up they opened up staking, right? You can deposit like various LSDs. I think they offer like the Lidos SDE that they offered, like the Coinbase Ethereum. They offer a few more. And they offered like certain allocations to it without any promise or guarantee of anything. Basically, like it wasn't like they promised additional APY outside of like the normal beacon chain rewards that staking ETH gave. Yet like all these pools, I want to say that they opened up maybe like between like 5 and 20,000 Ethereum at a time for all these pools, and I think they're all full now. And they anytime they open up additional allocation, they instantly get filled. So it seems like there's quite a bit of demand for it. I'm not sure if people are hyped about the technology or that they're just hoping for a little free money on the back end, but yeah, it's something interesting I've been following.
So
Awesome, but still no comments.
yeah, of course. I had some final questions. What tips do you have for young builders? So not traders and farmers. I mean, people who want to program or at least assist on the product of a startup in this industry. Like, where should they start? What should they do move, maybe not as fast as you, but to move fast.
So like one thing which can be interesting is there's this DAO called Supreme DAO, where like basically you can publish your work or like show your previous like contributions to open source or anything, and you can get in the DAO, and they have like these like day like weekly bounties on like building different things. So it can be like building a smart contract or like building a website. Like they have it like every week, and you basically solve them and like get the bounty. Generally they have like 3,000 rewards like to 3 people. uh but it varies. Another thing which you can do is like write up some code, publish it, and that like go get a grant, because right now like every L1 is giving out a grant. Nearly like I think even L2s are starting to giving out
Yeah.
give out grants now. Optimism grants are like pretty awesome, like, and the airdrops are the best. Uh yeah, I'm pretty biased. I got all 3 airdrops. Uh But generally, like I think like in crypto it's much easier for developers to get in compared to like other industries. Like game development is filled up with kids and people. Even like website developer, like all like at least like I got my edge like in crypto, like moving around like different industries.
Mhm.
And I think this makes a lot of sense in probably like third world countries, because like it's harder to get payment, harder to get employed, or
Yeah.
harder to get an internship. Like if you're like in the US or UK or any major country, it's like much easier. Like people are much open to like hiring kids for like internship or something. But
Mm.
if you see like in India, like it's like super hard, because first of all, getting to like any country is pretty hard in terms of like visa or like
Yeah.
generally like financial income of like average person.
Yeah,
Mm.
one final question from me. So sort of expanding on that, I know you've traveled to like quite a few different conferences or
Yeah.
meetups and stuff like that. Do you feel like as a developer, you've extracted a reasonable amount of value, or how do you approach these things? Because I feel like maybe not so recently, but I feel like in the past, especially during like the bigger bull cycles, you go to a few
Yeah.
of these conferences and it's a lot of people attempting to like sell you on it something, or
Yeah.
attempting to like promote something, which you know like it is great and all, but it doesn't really add value to what you're doing, and you also don't really grow
Yeah.
or collaborate with like the people you're looking to meet and collaborate with. So just like talk a little bit about your experience traveling and like meeting people at these meetups.
Definitely. Yeah, I have. uh so I generally go to conferences to like meet up like folks from Twitter, and like generally people I know for a long time online. uh and like if you see like Token 2049, like the main event was pretty not interesting. Like the attendees were like really awesome, majority. But if you see like the side events which happened during Token 2049 were awesome.
Yeah.
They were like filled with awesome people, and like I think most of the people from Twitter I met up in side events. Like I met Andreas sorry, I met Andreas at Poker Night
Yeah, the
Mantle's
mantle
Poker
night.
Night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like yeah, like my goal of like conference is generally to meet people, and like I think like Stanford's conference was the only different one where like I came there to like just learn what's happening in the academic space.
Uh-huh.
Uh yeah. And like Crypto Bahamas was also pretty different.
You get to meet
It
Tony
was
Blair.
mostly yeah, there was Tony Blair. Sorry, what was your question?
No, that was about it. Yeah, like I
Oh,
sort of
right.
had the same sentiment of with conferences. Like, usually the actual conference itself, the ticket price is pretty high, and
Yeah.
the whole value of going to like a large auditorium and listening to someone speak on something that will
Yeah.
likely will be recorded and posted on the internet later, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that great to me. Whereas like during Token 2049, you bring it up, like all the side events were great. Like you get to meet people, like you get to discuss what they're working on. You discuss what you're working on. I mean, you get people's contacts, like you keep in touch with them. I feel like that should be more the focus of these meetups rather than, like a hired speaker speaking to like thousands of people about some stuff they sort of understand but don't really care about, and essentially stuff like that. I'm not a fan of like the centralized main conference, but I am a fan of like people getting together, like not like-minded people getting together at the same place at the same time and discussing like their common interest. I feel like the value in that is quite large.
Gajesh, I just have one question, which is, who else do you think we should have on the show? Somebody, builders is the best. People building a cool product is especially.
I think you should have Sriram and Jai on the show.
Who are they?
Sriram is my boss, so
okay.
Jai is one of my.
We would absolutely love to have them on the show. Yeah, I didn't realize that. We would absolutely love to have them on the show. All right, I think that's all we have today. Andreas, do you have any other questions?
No, that's we've learned plenty for today.
We've learned a lot today. We appreciate your time and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was an awesome podcast.